Episode 2 opens on a bench in the heart of Mistral Central Station, where Weiss, Blake, and Yang have just sat down. Yang remarks that it's nice they'll finally be getting out of that house, it's felt like forever. Blake, confused, asks, haven't you only been there for like 2 weeks? Yang closes her eyes, replying that she's pretty sure her room was where Professor Oobleck would stay, and it reeks of coffee and motor oil. And she's not sure the two were different things. Weiss comments that Yang will end up missing it. Free room and board is hard to come by. Yang absently but begrudgingly concedes the point. Their train tickets ate a solid chunk out of their coffers, and that was just for Coach. Behind them, Ruby and John walk up carrying the hungover Crow. As they set him down on the bench, the two bicker lightly about how it was John's job to make sure that Crow didn't overdo it at the festival. John remarks, he can be crazy sneaky when he wants to be. While he says this, Crow's in the background sneaking a swig from his flask. He quickly stows it, hiding it before either of them can turn around and see him. Ruby looks around and asks where Ren and Nora went. Blake explains they split off together to get everyone something to eat while passing the food court. John asks more warily where Roman and Neo went, and the group become alarmed when they realize the second duo has also vanished. Groaning, John comments that Nora and Ren don't know where they are and someone needs to go looking for them. He locks eyes with Ruby, and wordlessly the two drop into a game of rock, paper, scissors over who will have to go find them, ultimately resulting in John's loss. With a playful raspberry and a friendly wave to John, Ruby is left alone with her team. Looking to her team, she says, so, while we're all here and they're not, I've got something to give to you. Weiss asks quizzically, why would them not being here matter? And Ruby replies, well, because I've been traveling with them for a couple of months and I'd feel bad getting you guys something and not getting them something because I got you guys something and I didn't have enough to get them anything and I feel really guilty about it. Taking a breath at the end of her ramble, Ruby reveals what she bought at the festival last episode, friendship bracelets. The three are clearly flattered, but hesitant to take the charms. A beat passes before Weiss reaches forward to take hers, followed closely by Yang. Blake reaches forward but draws back while second-guessing herself. Ruby, noticing this, zips around the other three girls, quickly putting the bracelets around their wrists while smiling warmly. At the end, she's putting her arms around the other girls' backs and declaring, Team Ruby, back together at last! Weiss and Yang roll their eyes at Ruby's antics while Blake just gives a bittersweet smile to the bracelet, playing with it with her fingers. We cut over to John, looking for his absent teammates. He actually finds them quite quickly, as Nora has stacked her tray of food with so much that she can't even see around it, having to strain her neck to select even more food to add to the pile. John jogs up to Ren, who gives him a resigned shake of the head as Nora tries to decide what to get next. From beyond the pile, a stranger begins to make suggestions, and Nora casually agrees with many of them, stacking the pile even further. John and Ren step forward to stop Nora, with Ren asking, how exactly are you planning to pay for all this? We're basically broke as it is, Nora. John steps around the pile to get a better look at everything they'd have to account for, only to come face to face with the stranger. Confused and surprised, John asks, Cardin? Cardin, similarly surprised, replies, John? And Nora, similarly confused, replies, pay? Roman said this was complimentary with the ticket! John balks at her. What? Why would he say that? Behind them, Russell walks up behind Cardin, giving the three a small, friendly wave. Cardin acknowledges his partner briefly before offering to pay for the food, saying that they just got paid and it's nice to see some familiar faces around here. Still confused, John asks Cardin what they're doing in Mistral since he thought that everyone was still back in Vale. Cardin goes on to explain that after the situation at Beacon began to stabilize, he and the rest of his team needed to look to the future. So Cardinal took a job serving as security for the train to Argus, since apparently there's been a shortage of huntsmen in Mistral as of late. John, Ren, and Nora are a little awkward about that comment, but it goes unnoticed as Cardin continues, explaining that they'd only just gotten into the gig about a month or so back. We haven't lost a passenger yet, Cardin says, putting John in a playful headlock. He emphasizes his next words with a noogie. So put your faith in me and Russ here. John struggles free and says, thanks, but we'll look after ourselves. As John rubs his neck, Ren walks up to Cardin, handing him a slip of paper. Cardin looks at him curiously and asks, what's this? Ren responds dryly, the bill for all the food you just offered to pay for. Cardin stares at Ren, then looks down to the paper, and breathes out, that's a lot of zeros. A special thanks goes out to all of my wonderful patrons for supporting the channel. If you like this content and want more of it, please consider supporting it. Also consider picking up my new action-adventure novel, The Artificer, which is now available for purchase on Amazon in digital and in print. With that all said, back to your regularly scheduled fixing. In a change of pace, we cut back to one of the White Fang bullheads from Volume 5, where we find Mercury shadowboxing while Emerald is repairing something along the ship's wall. The sound design is key here, as with every punch, kick, and step, the sound of Mercury's movements grate more and more on Emerald's nerves. Eventually, she becomes so pissed that she shouts at him, "If you're not going to help, can you at least not help in a way that isn't annoying?" Merc shoots back, "You're not the boss of me," and she replies, "I'm in charge of making sure this flea-ridden contraption stays in the air, and that, by default, makes me in charge. If you want to fight down there, keep doing what you're doing." Merc shrugs it off with a meh, and Emerald explodes. "Are you really that confident in yourself, or do you have some kind of death wish?" Mercury pauses and thinks over the question. "Both, I guess. I just take things as they come." Emerald stares at him. "Is there anything you actually take seriously?" And he again thinks it over before shrugging and saying, "Comics. I like comics." Emerald balks. "Seriously? Comics? We're about to get our asses reamed. We're coming back empty-handed, Mercury. She doesn't like failure. What are we going to tell her when we get there?" Mercury replies nonchalantly, "I am going to get down on my knees and beg for my life." A reply that earns a confused "what?" from Emerald. Mercury rolls his head back and looks at her as he explains, "I value my life more than my pride. If Cinder understood that, she'd still be alive, and maybe we wouldn't be coming back empty-handed." Emerald drops her tools and jumps to a stand, pointing a finger in Mercury's face. "Don't talk about her like she's gone!" He bats her hand away. "Oh please, I didn't see her come up that lift. Might as well face the music that she bit it down there. Move on." Merc turns away, heading towards the cockpit, but Emerald follows. "We don't know that! She could have just been injured down there. We didn't have a chance to go check." He sighs and turns back to her. "And if she's alive, she may as well be dead. The cops will have her dead to rights, and Salem's not going to waste time breaking a failure out of prison." Emerald tries to lift her hand to point at him indignantly, but she can't quite muster the strength, her words faltering. She's not a failure." Merc rests his arm on the bulkhead for support, emphasizing his points by counting on his free hand. "This is the second city we've walked away from without a relic, and we don't even have a maiden this time. She was in charge. It's on her. As long as we bow our heads and let her take the blame, we'll be fine." Again, he turns to leave, and Emerald shrilly asks, "We're here because of Cinder. How can you just throw her under the bus like that?" The question actually gets a laugh out of Mercury, and he looks over his shoulder at her. "Because she'd do the same to us in a heartbeat." Emerald calls bullshit, but Mercury cuts her off. "It's not, and you know it's not. I saw what happened during the fight, Emerald, and you're the only one on this ship that was surprised." Emerald's eyes widen like she's been slapped, and she grows quiet, shaking with rage and sorrow. Finally, she warbles out, No. That was for the mission." Mercury snorts. "Tell yourself whatever helps you sleep at night." Emerald's head snaps up and she asks through teary eyes, "How can you be so blasé? She was like a mother to us." Mercury's playful attitude evaporates almost immediately. He steps forward, pointing at her with his hand. "I'm gonna stop you right there. Unlike you, I had a father. He raised me. He trained me. Beat me until my legs stopped working, stole my semblance with his own saying it was a crutch when really he just wanted to make himself stronger." As he rants, he walks forward, forcing Emerald further and further into the depths of the cabin. "I've had my fill of parents, so when I tell you she would have sold you down the river to get a shred more prestige, take it to heart." And then, in an instant, his playful mood returns, flipping his hand aside dismissively. "Or don't. If you get killed, it's no skin off my back." Emerald stares at him in shock, rage, pain, and a whole slew of other conflicting emotions as he heads up towards the cockpit. Slipping into it, the door between the two compartments closes shut, leaving Emerald alone. Back in the train station, we find Blake talking to Gira, Callie's son, and Ilya, saying their goodbyes. As Blake pulls away from hugging her parents, she asks about the future of the Menagerie militia, now that the White Fang have been uprooted in Mistral. Callie responds that the majority of their people are returning home, but a number of members have shown a surprising amount of support for the idea of traveling to Vale to be of assistance in the restoration effort. Gira even muses that this might be a new route to explore for improving human and faunus relations, and he's eager to see the effects. Blake smiles at that, and then looks to Ilya, still handcuffed to Sun. The girl is timid, and Blake asks warmly, "Still think you made the right choice?" Ilya is pensive before saying, I'm still thinking on that. Her eyes fall to Gira and Callie. I guess I'll have plenty of time to sort through it all. Blake goes to lay her hand on Ilya's shoulder, but the uneasy look on Ilya's face causes her to pause. I hope you come to a conclusion that makes you happy. The unease washes off Ilya's face, and she offers Blake a small smile. The two share a look before Blake turns to Sun. Thanks for all your help, Sun. I couldn't have done, well, any of this without you. Sun smiles and rests his knuckles on his chin, playfully saying, Please, please, praise me more. Blake, equally playfully, bops him on the head with her hand. Rubbing the spot she hit, Sun looks up to her and says earnestly, Not gonna be the same without you around. She responds, Likewise, and looks down at the platform where Neptune is chatting amicably with Yang. Though now we have both our teams for company, so that's a plus. With this, Callie transfers the cuffs on Sun's wrist to her own, taking Ilya under her watch and saying her last goodbyes to Blake. Blake gives Ilya a final goodbye hug before walking with Sun down the stairs. They arrive at the bottom just as Yang and Neptune finish hugging and saying their own farewells. As they part, Neptune offhandedly asks, Hey, have you seen Jane anywhere? I wanted to say goodbye to her too. You came to Mistral together, right? Yang pops on her heels, scanning back and forth over the distant crowds as she says, Oh yeah, right, that wasn't Jane, that was Neo. I don't know where she got off to now that you mention it. Neptune blinks at her before asking, Wait, isn't that the girl who And Yang says matter-of-factly, Yep. But look, it's complicated. Just know I'm fine, she's fine, we're all fine. Neptune stares at her blankly before shaking his head and just muttering, Well, if you say so, as Sun walks up behind him. Sun pats Neptune on the back and says, Come on, man, if you're worried, have some backbone. To which an irritated Neptune turns and grabs Sun's tail, replying, Then why don't you give me some of yours? Sun recoils, pulling his tail loose and clutching it protectively to his chest, whining, Not you too, much to the amusement of Blake and Yang. Behind them, RWBY pops out of a line of people and waves at Yang and Blake, calling, Guys, we're going to be boarding soon, get over here! The two turn back to Neptune and Sun and give them warm goodbyes before jogging over to reconvene with their team in the line. As they link up, RWBY is still hopping up and down, scanning the crowds, similar to how Yang had been moments earlier. Yang raises a brow and asks, What's up, Rubes? And RWBY responds, I can't find Roman or Neo anywhere. They're going to miss the train. Blake, scanning in the opposite direction, narrows her eyes and flattens her ears as she says, Oh, you have got to be kidding me. The party turn in response and see Roman and Neo at the far end of the platform, already boarding onto the train, taking their sweet old time getting on board. The four stare at them and Weiss asks, Isn't that boarding for first class? From a distance, Roman catches their gaze and smiles at them wickedly, taunting them with a bow before boarding the train behind Neo. Yang balks at them. How did they even get that much lien? Before they can discuss things further, a whistle sounds and boarding begins. We follow the team in quick cuts as they go through a security checkpoint, during which all their weapons are confiscated, excluding Crow thanks to being a fully licensed huntsman. This becomes a problem when RWBY is forced to hand over Crescent Rose, leading to a comical scene where security is pulling on her weapon while Yang tries to pull her apart from it. Eventually, RWBY's arms give out and she's separated from her baby, all the while Weiss apologizing for her childish behavior to the staff. Blake comforts RWBY as they board the train, saying her baby will be kept safely in the caboose until they arrive at Argus. RWBY sniffles, It's not fair, as she's pushed on board by Yang. There's a brief montage as the doors to the train close and it pulls out of the station, beginning its journey north. However, the last shot lingers as it leaves, pulling back to reveal Adam on his bike, watching it from a safe distance before kicking the bike into gear and cutting to black as his tires begin to spin.